Hello everyone. Before I start the video, I'd like to point your attention to my blog spot. I've had it up for a while and I wrote a few things on it, but they weren't really up to standard, so I have started writing on them again. If you enjoy my YouTube content, you will more than likely enjoy reading some of the things that I will be posting on there. Now, on to today's video. I'm talking about something in particular that I don't think gets that much attention outside of the more libertarian spaces. And it's something that I think I can fundamentally agree upon with the libertarian side, and that is the paper bureaucracy that many modern nations find themselves in. So to clarify this, our laws and regulations and legal proceedings are extremely complex, and I think that this is a huge problem and is fundamentally one of the reasons why our governmental system is breaking down. This bureaucracy is grinding the legal process to a halt, why we can't get things done very easily, why it takes 5 to 10 years to really make a change in the political sphere. And the problem is exacerbated by democracy, of course, and I'll talk about that. But I think we are missing a principle when it comes to governance, and that is simplicity. And when I say simplicity, that does not necessarily mean a lack of nuance, but it should not require these legal proceedings or these creation of laws or anything like that. The structure of the government should not require 300 lawyers and 6 months of their time just to make a draft of a law or a bill or a statute or something like that. It should not require that multiple legal experts have to sit down and interpret a bill in order to explain it to the general population. I think this is a very egregious mistake. And as is my understanding of past political systems, one of the reasons why I think that the old-style monarchistic forms of governments worked so well, not only are they a natural expression of human behavior, but they're also incredibly simple. Everyone can understand the legal system. You got a guy at the top, he's, put there by God or whatever, he's put there by a house, he's got the power, he makes decrees, that's about it. And when these monarchs would issue decrees or something like that, it could be as short as a single page. And your average layperson, if they got someone to read for them, could understand it in a few sentences. It didn't take someone a week of taking notes and highlighting things and writing a whole book just to understand a single law. For example, if the crown wanted to raise taxes 3% in order to fund the war against the French, well, it would just explicitly say that, and it would be posted on the local information board or nailed to a tree or a door or something. People could read it or have people read it for them. Very simple, very easy to understand. Now, I am under the impression that if the average person cannot interpret or understand the laws that they are supposed to be governed by, how can they possibly feel anything but negativity towards that system? And that's why I think that the libertarian philosophy, in some aspects, the reason why so many people turn towards it is not just because of the philosophy in and of itself or the economic system, but because they're talking about things like this, the bureaucratic nightmare that is neoconservative and neoliberal governments. I'll give you an interesting example that I think most people, at least in the United States, will be familiar with. You see constantly a lot of your average layperson, when they're interacting with someone, they'll just make shit up about what is legal and what is not. If a cop stops them and wants them to do something, say, "Oh, that's illegal. You can't do that. I'm allowed to do that. This is what you're doing is against the law." And it's like, yeah, maybe if someone's intelligent enough to know all of the statutes and laws in that given region, it's almost impossible to question it. People can just make up bullshit on the spot, and you'll have to dig through a legal code to make an objective argument against that. This is something that just is common because the legal system is so complex that how do you know that that's not illegal or that there isn't a statute against that or a law? How many people honestly know some of the basic, anything outside of the basics of the laws of the land that they live in? Most people don't. I would want to return to the days where, well, maybe not exactly, this is a bit hyperbolic, but I would want to return to the days where your entire legal system could be written on 2 stone tablets, and that's about it. That would be great, I think. And really, what are laws but an extension of moral principles? And I think that, of course, these things can be objective, but moral principles are relatively simple as a concept. Your rationalization may be a bit complex, but the general rules in and of themselves are quite simple. So I think when we're going forward with developing a new political structure, I think it would be paramount to keep in mind that simplicity is a very important idea. I want to make sure that the average man can comprehend the laws and value systems around him. I think this simplicity, this idea of having a simple form of governance, I think will also curb a lot of this anti-government sentiment, because there seems to be, when I talk with your average person and many libertarians and sort of these anti-government movements, there seems to be a divide between the ruled and the rulers, as there usually is. But it's more than ever. More and more people are distrusting their government, and I think that's a good thing for these Western nations. But it is so easy for the average person to not give two flying fucks about their legal system or the laws of the land or anything like that, because it's just outside of their scope. And I can't say I blame them for not engaging in politics or anything like that, because it has become this farce. It's a class divide, to be honest. It really is. And as someone who wants to destroy class warfare, we have to see where this kind of class warfare is and then destroy it. And I think making sure that we have a simplistic form of governance of some kind will help to reduce this instability. In fact, I think it will promote stability. Another thing I'd like to point out is that when it comes to the realm of natural law and natural rights, sort of, if you're in the United States, think of the Bill of Rights. These things should not be up for interpretation. We cannot allow someone 50 years, 100 years from now be able to interpret something some way. These things are subjective, or, someone on the Supreme Court can say, well, the Founding Fathers really meant this, and because everything is kind of from that modern perspective, whatever time period that may be in. But these natural rights are inalienable. They are not up for debate. They are not subjective. And I think this is the primary issue of why we constantly have to defend the Second Amendment and the First Amendment and all the other ones, except for a few. But it's because they're not explicit. And I understand that the English language at the time, maybe they would have been considered explicit, but I think you have to take a step back, look at these inalienable rights, enumerate them, codify them, and make them non-subjective. You cannot allow these fundamental rights to be interpreted by someone else. This just opens up the gates for leftist Supreme Court judges to just kind of overturn the amendment, essentially, and put restrictions on it and things like this. So if we were to form a new government or write a new constitution or have a new constitutional convention or something like that, I think the primary goal should be to re-enumerate these basic inalienable rights, clarify them to the point where there is no interpretation about what the words mean, and also write down in the history books, hey, if there is a major shift in the English language, or if the language changes in the country, something like that, make sure you sit back down and re-enumerate these rights and make them so that they cannot be interpreted a different way. I think it's very important to keep on top of things as time goes on, because there's only so much that can be passed from generation to generation when it comes to laws. Everyone has their perspective. Now, because everyone has their perspectives does not mean that these things are subjective, of course. You have to understand this, but you have to make the next generations understand in explicit terms that these things are inalienable, they cannot be changed, they are not up for interpretation. Many of these laws get caught up in this semantic, subjective debate constantly because they are too complex. There is too much nuance with them. It takes a legal defense team just to comprehend and explain and use a law to their advantage in legal proceedings, and I think that is disgraceful. We are getting caught up on minute details that do not matter and should not have been placed in those legal codes in the first place. So going forward, I think that everyone should keep in mind that simplicity in governance is a virtue. Now, that being said, I've made some changes to the microphone here, so tell me what you think. Is the audio quality better? Is it worse? Should I go back to the old one, or keep improving on the audio quality? Let me know down in the comments, or send me a message on Twitter. Links will be in the description. Thanks for watching.